Today I'm going to be showing you how to create this report that you can see on your screen using Power BI. This is a web analytics report, a useful tool for organizations and startups to monitor their digital presence. At a glance, this report shows total number of users, page views, conversion rate, average session duration, and bounce rate. Down here, we have a trend of users based on the slider selection over here, which is last 7 days. Over here, we have device type, users by device type, traffic source, and country. When I change this slicer to show the last 30 days, for instance, everything filters to show that particular time period selected. Another interesting thing about this is that you can also select custom to be able to select your date range that you want. Another feature of this report is that each of these KPIs can be used to filter this report. Right now, we have users. You can select for page views, and everything filters for page views to show page views. Then conversion rate, average session duration, and bounce rate. Hi, my name is Chamaka, and welcome to my channel where I teach Power BI, its application across different industries. If you're new to this channel, click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification icon to get notified when I post new videos. The dataset I'm going to be using for this report is going to be in the description below, as well as the Power BI file if you want to follow along. Let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is to create our background on PowerPoint. So this is the background that I use for this report. As you can see, it's very easy. So we're going to replicate that quickly. So I'll click on blank slide, select shape, rectangle, fill up the space, the whole slide, then change the shape view, change that to this color, change the transparency. So go to more fill color. This is the hash code of the color if you want to replicate that. Then increase the transparency to 80. Click OK. I don't want to have any outline, so no outline. Then I'm going to add another rectangle for our header. Drag that up. Change the shape fill. I want that to be this color. No outline. Then I'll add another rectangle. This is going to be for the KPIs. Change the shape fill to white and no outline. Then the next one, I'll just duplicate this so as to fill up the remaining space. So we have our outline. Then I'll click Ctrl A, Ctrl G to group everything. Then right click and save as picture. I've already saved this as picture. I don't need to save it. Now we're in Power BI. I'm going to import the background that we created on PowerPoint. So to do that, I'll click on this format pane. Click on Canvas background, browse, search for the picture. So I'm going to change image fit to fit, then transparency to 0. The next thing we're going to do is to import our dataset. Our dataset is an Excel file, which is this, and it's a pretty straightforward Excel file. Here we have the user ID, date, page views, month, the session duration, traffic search, the traffic source. So here we have different categories: direct, organic search, paid search, referral, and social media. Then over here we have the device type: desktop, mobile, and tablet. And over here you can see that this particular one, we are going to clean this because we have 2 desktops. Then here we have different countries, and also here we're going to clean this and standardize this because we have different United States. Then over here we have the bounce rate and the conversion either 1 or 0. So 1 signified converted, while 0 not converted. So let's import this into Power BI. So over here in Power BI, I'm going to click on Excel workbook, download. This is the data. Open that up. Click on this and to select the data, then click on transform data. So now we have our data set imported. By default, I like to turn on this so as to give me the idea of the individual column quality. If you don't have this turned on, you can turn it on by clicking on view and click on enable column quality. So right now Power BI has actually changed type for us. So I'm going to go through these individual columns to ensure that they have the correct data type. So date, we have date data type, which is fine. User ID, text, which is fine. Page views, whole number, which is fine. Then month, which is text, which is fine. Session duration, whole number, which is okay. Traffic source, text. Device type, text. Country, text. Bounce rate, decimal, which is okay. Then conversion, whole number, which is fine. And for this, I'm going to be removing this particular month because I don't need this. I will have a date table in my data, so there is no point having this. So try to remove unnecessary columns that you don't need. It will help in the performance of your report. Then the next thing I'm going to do here, just like I highlighted earlier, is that on the device type, we have different categories, and you can see that this is just the data entry error kind of thing, where you have desktop and desktops. So I'm going to standardize this so that this will show only desktop. So to do that, I'm going to right click on this, replace values. I'm going to type in desktops, then replace that with desktop, then click OK. So now when you look at the category, so we only have desktop instead of desktops. I'm going to do the same thing for the country, because when you look at this country category, you can see that United States is actually listed into 2 places in different formats. So I'm going to change this to just read United States without the USA. So to do that, I will do the same thing that I did, but I'm going to just click on this so I can copy the exact format. Right click on this, replace values, then replace that with just United States. Click OK. So you can validate that to ensure that that other one is no longer showing. I can load complete as well. So you can see that we have the correct category. Then next thing I'm going to do, this name of this table is quite long. I'm just going to change it to data. And I'll click on close and apply. Now we have imported our data set. We can see that over here. So the next thing I'm going to do is to quickly create a date table, a simple date table. So I'm going to look at this, our data, the minimum date, which is 1st of June 2024, and the maximum date, which is 16th of July 2025. So I am going to, as at the time of recording this video, today's date is 17th of July 2025. So I'm going to create a new table, go to table, new table, date table, so which is equal to, I'm going to use the calendar function, the start date. So for this, I'm going to use the minimum of my date. in my date table, in my data itself. So, which is this particular date. I want it to start with that. Then today's date is going to be the end date. So I have this. I'll click on this, change the data type to date, and also change the format. So I want this to be in day, month, and year. So I'm going to create a new column here for my year and month. I'm just going to do year and month. Year is equal to the year function, date table date. Then new column month. Which is equal to the month function, date table date. Then the month name, which is equal to, we're going to format the date, and we want the first three letters of the date, of the month, so into 3 places. So I will sort the month name so that it will be in chronological manner. So I'll click on month name and select month, sort that by the month number, which is fine. Next, I'm going to create a relationship between the date table and my date and my data. So new relationship, table, data, and my date table. So I have these two dates. Save. So I have one-to-many relationship between them. You can see that here on the model view. The next thing I'm going to do is to create a new table for this particular slicer period. You can see that for this period, we have last 7 days, 30 days, 90 days. So this is a disconnected table. So I'm going to create a table for this. So I'm going to click on Home, click on Enter Data. So this is, we have the column at the sort because I want it sorted in this manner. The 7 days will come first, then the custom will come last. So the name of this is going to be my date range. Load. So you can see we have that table here, the period, last 7 days, 30, 90, and 365, and custom, also the sort order. So the next thing I'm going to do is to create a table for my measures. So I'm going to click on Enter Data. Measures. Then click on Load. So we have that here. So the next thing we're going to do is to start creating our measures. We want to check the total number of users, the page views, the bounce rates, total conversion, as well as session duration. So for total number of users, in order to calculate that, we are going to count the distinct number of user ID here. So that is the way we are going to calculate the total number of users. Then for page views, we're going to sum this page views column. Then for the average session duration, we're going to find the average of the session duration column. Then the bounce rate, average bounce rate, we're going to find the average of this bounce rate column. Then conversion, we are going to count the number of rows where conversion is equal to 1 in order to get for conversion. But our measures are going to be different, not straightforward, because of this date slicer that we have here. You find out that when I select last 7 days, for instance, everything changes for 7 days. So I'm not going to create just the measure. I'm going to wrap these measures in different dash code in order to enable this to work. So that when someone selects 30 days, for instance, the measure dynamically changes to show the 30 days. Then also when someone selects custom, the measure actually allows for this second slicer to work when someone selects a date picker here, start date and end date. So for the first one, which is the users, I'm going to be using this measure. So this is a long one. If you're a beginner and you're watching this, you don't need to fret. I added comment to explain what each measure is actually doing at every step in time. So if you look through this measure here, we have our distance counts over here. So this is actually finding the total number of users. But I had to wrap it around this because when you look at this first part, this is our table that was created, the previous selected variable here. So for the range sort, so the selected value of that range sort. So down here we have the another variable here. What this is basically doing is that if the range sort, the table that we created, if one is selected on our slicer, then show -7. You can see that here. If 2 is selected, offset by 30 days. Then if 3 is selected, offset by 90 days and the likes of it. Then if custom, which is 5, is selected, show blank. Then over here, we have another set of function. This is the return aspect of things where the distance count, if it's blank, of offset this. So this custom part is actually enabling the second slicer to work so that whatever the user selects on the second slicer can actually work. So that is what this first part is doing, because that blank actually means the custom period. Then over here, if the user did not select the custom, then this part can actually work. So count the number of unique users, go use this date in period function for me, and offset by the number of days the person selected. So if the person selected one sort, so offset by 7 days -7, so as to give me the last 7 days. So I'm going to be putting this as a text in the description so that you can study this. It's quite straightforward. I actually added comments to be able to help you understand this. So I'll click OK for my users. So the next one, which is going to be page views, is going to be similar to this, but it will not have so many descriptions because it's just the same concept. The only thing that will change for page views is this part where you have the count for users. So for this, it's going to be sum of the page views column. So for page views, you have this. You can see that it's similar to what we had there, but I did not put the descriptions. It's just the same concept. But here you can see that this is doing the sum of the page views. So these are the two different parts that you just add page views to differentiate that from the users. So sum of the page views column will give us the total page views. And the offset and all of that is also applicable here because when the slicer is selected, we want the page view to change dynamically as well. So I'm going to do the same for average bounce rate. Right click, new measure. So this is for average bounce rate. Just like we have been doing, you can see the average of the bounce rate column. We just replace that here in order to show for bounce rate. Then the next one is average session duration. For the average session duration, we also have the same thing similar to average bounce rate, where you just find the average of the session duration column. But we have to wrap it around this because we want the slicer to also affect it as well. So the next measure is going to be total conversion. So new measure, total conversion. So this basically is going to count the conversion column where conversion is equal to 1. So count rows of my data, give me where the conversion is equal to 1. That will give us total conversion. So next one is now going to be the conversion rate, which is basically going to be dividing this total conversion by the total number of users that we have. And I'm going to wrap it around the period selection stuff so that the slicer can affect that as well. So we have the conversion rate. So you can see down here that this is our conversion rate. Divide the total conversion by the users, total number of users. So just replace that here, but wrap it around the period selection so that the selection can affect it as well. Commit. So we are going to create another set of measures, which is going to be the change. So right now you can see that when last 7 days is selected, you have this change, 4% increase versus the previous 7 days and all of that. If I select 30 days as well, it changes dynamically to represent 30 days. And also when I select custom, I don't want anything to change because the user is going to do that change themselves. So I don't know what the user is going to select. So I just want it to show any when I select custom. In order to do this, I'm going to create this set of measures that will help us to achieve this for the individual matrices. So for change for users, we're going to be using this measure. It's another long measure as well, but it's quite explanatory. Here we have the first variable, the period selected from our date range table that we created. This is a disconnected table. So we are using the selected value. So whichever value that is selected on that slicer that we're going to be using on the visual page. Then current value in this case is the user. The user in this case is the user measure that we have created earlier. Then over here, we have previous period value. So this is a switch statement. If the period selected, which is this on the table, which is on the slicer, is 1, then calculate number of users, use date add, and subtract 7 from it, 7th day. So to show last 7 days, then same thing is applicable for when to is selected, minus 30, that's last 30 days and all of that. Then when it is blank, it actually means that custom is selected. So the user can select whichever date range they want. Then over here, we have the change itself. The change in the sense that the difference between the current last 7 days minus the previous last 7 days. So we have the current, divide the current value minus the previous value divided by the previous value, which will give us that change, either positive or negative change. Then here we have the arrow. If the change, if it's not blank and the change is greater than 0, show me this wedge up. In order to enable this wedge up, just press Windows key and period, that's full stop, to enable this and to get the symbol wedge up or down as the case may be. Then aside this, after the if statement, we have this another switch function. So this particular one is going to be the label that comes beside the wedge when you look at the reports here. So when you have last 7 days selected, so this label here is also a switch statement because when I select 30 days as well, it shows a different label. It's dynamic. So this particular switch statement is responsible for that. Then finally, bring all of them together. That is what this particular if statement is doing. Give me the change, the percentage, the arrow, and the period label. This is the final value. So it's a long one, but it's quite explanatory. I'm going to also add this to the text in the description for you to also study the way it works. So this is for users. I will commit this. Then for other ones, it's similar. The only thing is that wherever you see users, you replace that with page views, conversion rate, session duration, or bounce rate. That is just the difference. So I will just copy this new measure. So for page views, just highlight users. So Shift, Control, and L to select all users that you have. Then delete that and replace that with page views. So we have the page views change. The next one is the conversion rate. Paste that same users. So wherever I see users, replace that with conversion rate. Then the next is the average bounce rate. So I missed the dot beside the average. That is why it's still showing red. So we have that now. Then the next is the average session duration. Okay, we have the average session duration. We have all our measures. So the next thing we're going to do is to add the text for the title of this chart. So I'm going to click on Insert, Text Box. So this is basically going to be Web Analytics Report. So I'm going to select All, Control A, increase the size of this to 24, make it bold, turn off the background, click on Format, Size and Style, turn off the background, then select All again to make this change this to white so that it will be visible. So we have that. I'll just align this. So we have our title. Next is going to be the slicer for the date period. So I'm going to be using the normal old slicer for this. I'll select, go down to my dates range table and select period. So it is currently listed that way, but I want it as a drop down. So I'll click on the format pane where I have slicer setting. I want this as drop down, not a list. So I'm going to place that here, adjust this, click on where I have format as well so that I can adjust it further. The values, I want the font color to be white. For the background, I want the color of the background to be this. Then I'll turn off the title where I have the slicer header, just reduce that to 10. Then turn off the background of the slicer itself. Then the slicer header, I will just change the font color to white so that we have that. So right now you can see that it's not sorted the way it's supposed to. So that is the reason we created this sort. So I'll click on period, sort column by sort. So we have it well sorted now. Next thing I'm going to do is to create the second slicer. Just like we have here, we have the slicer that is not enabled, that we only enable it when we have this custom selected. This is enabled for users to actually pick any date range of their choice, and the report filters for that date range to show them for that time period. So I'm going to set this up as well. So to do that, I'll click on the old slicer as well, bring that to this end, and select date from my data. We have this slider. I don't want the slider to show, so I will scroll down to where I have slider, turn that off, then adjust this, turn off my slicer header as well, turn off the background of the slicer. and place it here. So the value itself, I want the value to be white. So I'll scroll down to where I have value, change that for black font to white font. So the value is showing. But the interesting thing now is that when this slicer is selected, this value still shows here, but I don't want it to show. I want it to only be enabled when custom is selected. So to do that, we are going to create a new measure here. Right click, new measure. So we're going to be using this measure. What this measure is doing, we are using has one value to ensure that one value and one value is alone is selected. And if that value is equal to 5 in our date rich sort table, return 1. And if it is not equal to 5, return 0. So this will help us to disable that slicer. So I'll commit this. Then click on that slicer. Come over to the filter pane. Drag the new measure that we created to the filter pane, then select if is equal to 1. Then apply filter. So you can see automatically here, this is disabled for last 7 days. For last 30 days, it's still disabled. Last 90 days is disabled. Last 365 days is disabled. And custom, we want this to be enabled for custom, but right now it's not showing. The reason is because this is a slicer and this is also a slicer, but we don't want this to filter this. So I'm going to click on Format, Edit Interaction, and change this from not filtering this to filter. So right now we have this, then last 7 days is disabled. So it's working the way it's supposed to. Let me just turn this off. So last 30 days is still disabled, but custom is enabled. You can see that this is working the way it's supposed to. You can now select your start date and your end date. So let's leave this at last 7 days and continue creating our visualization. So we are going to create the card visuals representing our KPIs. So I'll be using the new card. Select the new card. Try to extend that to this part of the canvas because that is the placeholder that we created for it. So the first thing we're going to select is users, page views, conversion rate, array session duration in seconds, and average bounce rate. So let's see what we have. So right now it's only showing 3 because by default it shows 3. So we're going to go to the layout, that's a format pane, increase this to show 5 because we have 5 KPIs to show. And from the look of things, we need to change the format of our conversion rate to represent percentage. So I'm going to change this to percent. And the bounce rate as well. We want this to also be in percentage. So we have that in percent. Then for the session duration, I want this to be in 0 decimal place. So we have that. Next is to start formatting this proper. So I'll click on the card, click on Format pane. Under the layout part, okay, which is fine. We are going to go to the callout value part, reduce this to 30. Then align center. Then for page views, I want everything to show, not just 2K. So I'm going to go to where we have the callout itself. I'll select page view. Display unit, I want display unit none. And I'll select page view from our data pane. I want it to have comma separation. So that's fine. So the next thing we're going to do is to turn off the card background and border. So we are going to add the individual changes as reference label to all of them. So I'm going to click on this. The first one, we have users. So I'll add the users percentage change. We have that over here. So I'll scroll down, turn off the title so that we will have only 4% increase showing. Then I'll click on it back because I want to just format that really good. Turn off the background, and where I have the divider, change the color of the divider to white so that it will not be visible. Then the layout of that particular reference label, just select all so that the layout can show. We want it to be center aligned as well. Then I will go to where I have value. You have this here. I'll go to where I have value so I can change the color for either green or red as the case may be. So I'll click back on that and scroll down, change the conditional format. So for this case, it's going to be rules. If the user's percentage change, select that. If it contains wedge up, then show me green. This is the shade of green that we're going to be using. So I'll copy the shade so that it will be used for others. Then new rule. If it contains wedge down, then show me red. Click OK. So we have that for users. I'm going to do the same thing for page views, conversion rate, and the others. So the next thing we're going to do here, basically, let's go to our reference. So you have here that when you select each particular metric, everything changes, and we need to set that up so that each of our metrics will filter the remaining part of the report. So in order to do that, we are going to be creating parameters. So to do that, I'll click on model, new parameter, build parameter. So I'm going to name this as metrics. Then I'm going to add some of my measures I've created. So users, page views. Next one is conversion rate, average session duration, and bounce rate. So ensure you select them in the order that you already have your report, the metrics on your report. So here we have a new table. If I go to the table view, for instance, let me just turn this off. So you have the matrix field. You have the automatically create a table for you. You have users, page view, conversion rate, average session duration, and bounce rate, and the order that they are being sorted. Then if you come to the report view as well, you also have a slicer here. So we're going to be using this slicer in order to make this dynamic. So I'm going to change this to button slicer. Click on build. So I'll change this to button. And I want this to be in 5 columns. So I'll go to layout. Instead of, I just want a single row of 5 buttons showing. So we have this here. I'll turn off the title of the slicer, drag it up here to cover my report. The next thing I'm going to do is to scroll down to where I have the size and style. I want it to be transparent so that I can be seeing the cards I have created. So I'll turn this off. And the fill part, I'm going to turn off the fill as well. So you can see that we are now seeing the cards that we've created initially. So I'll align this, reduce the height a bit. The next thing is to turn off the individual labels that I can see within. So to do that, I'll look for that part. So I'll go to colored values, turn that off, turn off the values of that. So you can see that we have the individual stuff. And now when I click on anyone, you can see a black border showing that this is clickable right now. We are going to test it when we have other reports. But right now, let's just edit this and make it good. But before we move on, let's test our period slicer to be sure that it's working the way it's supposed to. So last 30 days, everything is filtering. All right. Last 365, 90 days. Okay. It is filtering the way it's supposed to. So let's just go back to last 7 days to make this neat. Then I'm going to adjust this further so that it will not overflow from the line. So I'll click on the button, scroll down to where I have, this is the value. So right now where you have all, select the button aspect of things. So right now we have this border here. We want the border color to be this color and 70% transparency. Then the spacing between the, let's go to layout. So I just want spacing, not this layout, the shape layout. So I want to increase the spacing to like 18 so that each card we have a space in between. So we have that. So right now, this is the one selected, but we want the selected one to be visible. So I'm going to click on that, then on selected button state, I'll select unselected. I want it to have fill and the color of the fill of the one that is selected, I want it to be this color. And I want this to be 80% transparency. So let me select one. So you can see that it's now visible that this is the particular one selected and this is not selected. So we have that. The next thing is to continue to build the remaining part of our visuals. So the next one is going to be the trend. So to create that, I'll click on my data. I want to select the date here from the data itself. Then it's going to be a line chart. And instead of using the measures that we've created individually, just like I did here, whenever I select any one, each one automatically changes. So we're going to be using the parameter instead of the measures that we've created individually. So I'm going to click on the build aspect of things. So the y-axis, the x-axis is the date, while the y-axis is going to come from our metric. So I'll just get that from the parameter. So we have this Let me just adjust it over here. Fill up this page with it. So we have user by date. If I select page view, it changes to page view by date. So I'm going to edit this quickly. So on the format pane, I want the width to be 482. Then background, turn off the background. I don't want the vertical grid to show. So I'll just turn off the vertical grid, just leave the horizontal. Then where I have the x-axis, I'll turn off the x-axis title, the y-axis title as well. Then the line, I want the line to be smooth. Then the color of the line, I want to change the color of the line to adapt to what we have been doing. So interestingly, when I change to another metric, the line color changes. So I'm going to click on each individual metric and ensure that the color sticks with the blue that we have been using. Conversion rate. Average session duration. Average bounce rate. So the next is going to be a donut chart that will show distribution by device type. So I'm going to select donut chart. Oh, not this. So I'm going to select donut chart, width of 3/4. Then the data here, we're going to be using the same metric because we want this to be dynamic as well. But this case is going to be by device type. So I'm going to look at the build part that both are the legend. So the metric should come to the value option. So I'm going to the slices, where I have the slices. I want the tablet to be this shade. I want the desktop to be this shade. Not this. I want to use this darker one instead. Then the other one is going to be this sour blue. Then scroll up, turn off the background. Where we have the legend, I want to turn off the title of the legend, and it's going to be bottom center position. Then I am going to go over to where I have spacing, inner radius, increase that to 75. Then where I have the detail label, I only want to see percent of total. So we have that. Then the next is going to be distribution by traffic source. So I'm going to just take this up a bit. Then have a bar chart down here for my traffic source. So I'll select traffic source as well as the metric so that it will be dynamic as well. I'll look at the build. And the metric is going to be on the x-axis, not legend. Then turn off the background. Where you have the x-axis. Let me just start with the y-axis here. Turn off the title of the y-axis. Then where you have the maximum width, increase that so that organic set can show in full. Then over here where you have the layout, this is fine, 20 is fine for that. Then for the x-axis, turn off the title and the value. Then scroll down where I have the bar, change the color of the bar to fit with this blue that we've been using. Then turn on the data label. The data label right now is at this position. I want this to be inside center. And I want the color of the value to be black. So that it will be visible. Then finally, we have a map by country. So distribution by country. So for that, we're going to select build, select our bubble map, extend that here to fill up this remaining space. Then location, in this case, we have country in our data. Then where you have the bubble size, we want it to be a metric. So we have the different size here. Then I'm going to click on the format part so that I can format the map. Map setting, we want the style to be light so that it can fit the color that we already have. Then the bubble color, we want the color to be this shade of yellow. So right now we have basically everything that we need. So when I click on, right now we are looking at average bounce rate. So if we click on users, everything changes for users. If you click on conversion rate, everything changes. Then if I select 90 days, everything changes for 90 days. You can see that here. When you hover, you can see that it has changed. Then if I select for custom, I can select right now is on 1st of June 2024. If I want to select my end date to be that same June 2024, so let's just take this back to 2024, June, and 30th of June 2024. So everything has changed to reflect that range. So this is the end of this report. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And I would like to know what you think in the comment section. Like I said earlier, the dataset that I used as well as the Power BI file is going to be in the description below if you want to follow along. Bye and see you in my next video.